Good morning, beloved community. Let's take a few breaths. Let it all out. And take a deep breath in. And let it go. Another deep breath. Breathe in. And let go. One more like that together. Breathe in. And let go. So good morning. I'm coming to you a bit raw this morning. Many of you know I have been a student and a mentee of Dr. Jean Houston for almost 14 years. And I just learned this morning that Dr. Jean made her transition yesterday. And she has left her body, and she has gone on. And tomorrow's her birthday. So I brought a candle. One of the things we often do here when a member of this community passes, and whether you ever met her or not, she is very much infused in this community. She's infused in just about every word that comes out of my mouth. And so I'm going to light this candle, and whenever I do this to honor someone who's transitioned, it's the opportunity just to recognize that the spark, the eternal flame of who we are, is truly eternal and is not bound by the body. It just gets to be in it for a little while. And so as Ernest Holmes says, we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. And so with that, I lift up my beloved teacher, Dr. Jean Houston. I might just stand up here and cry for the next 15 minutes. We'll see what happens. Gitanjali said something this morning which I thought was really beautiful, which is that the relationship between a teacher and a student has nothing to do with whether either one of them is in a body. I had so many things I was going to talk about this morning, and my brain is somewhere. Would you breathe with me? Just give me some love for a second, please. I just need a moment. I think I'll start this way. Jean Houston was someone who, over the course of her 60-something year career as a spiritual teacher in this world, she taught in something like 182 different nations over the span of her career. She worked with the UN for many, many years. She was a spiritual advisor to Hillary Clinton at one point. And her body of work, she called social artistry. And the idea behind social artistry was that each and every person, if we could learn to live our lives and to think of ourselves as an artist, whether you think you're an artist or not, but to think like an artist, to act like an artist, to use your body, your talents, your dreams, your visions, your passions as your unique art. And then to imagine that society was the canvas in which you would paint your art. Right? And so social artistry was about this body of work that taught individuals how to awaken their inner potential and then find where to bring that awakening, where to bring that enthusiasm, where to bring that power, that magic, and a way to bring it into the world. And so she had tens and tens and thousands of students around the world, and one of her things with social artistry, which also has bled into my synthesis work, is that she would invite every one of her students to always have a project. Something that you were focusing your energy and your spiritual work and everything that you were learning towards, so that it wasn't just about grandiose, magical, powerful spiritual concepts. You are the universe channeling evolution into the world. Yes, but how? What are you going to do with it? Right? And so her students, all of us, have built works and projects and things that have flourished into the world. And one of the things that, I don't know if Jean said this or where I saw it at one point, but she talked at one point about, if you don't know what your project is, if you don't know what your passion is, if you don't know what's yours to do in the world, make two lists. One is all of the things that you love to do, all of the things that you are good at, the things that you have passion for, the things that you love. And then the other list is the things that bring you the most pain in the world. And then draw two circles in your mind and find the place where those two lists come together. Find the place where those two lists come together. And if you can find the place where your gifts, your passions, and your loves meet the things that bring you the most pain in the world, you will find what's yours to do. And that may change at any moment. It may shift and change throughout your life or at any given moment in time, but it's a beautiful lens for us to be able to see how to take the things that we love and the things that bring us pain and bring them together, how to take our spiritual truths and live them into the world. And so one of the things I wanted to bring our attention to today was these quilts that are on display here at the Resource Center for Nonviolence. They're in this room, they're in the lobby, and I don't know how many of us have taken the time to actually look at them or see what's here. But all of these quilts have names on them of children who did not make it to their first birthday in Gaza. The artist is here today. And if you just want to raise your hand back there, I forgot your name, but if you would just stand up over here. And she'll tell you a little bit about that in the potluck afterwards, and do meet her. But it's the perfect example of that thing I'm talking about, right? It's like someone loved to make quilts, and then someone was deeply pained by this tragedy. And to be able to create something, to bring something forth into the world that at least is a way of offering your soul to the problem. We may not be able to go over there and stop what's happening, but we can give our energy and our life force and our love to the issues of the world. Things like this is how we tap into, and this is how we activate the soul of the world. This kind of art, this kind of love that these quilts represent, that Jean Houston's work represented, was about tapping into something so much greater than we are and realizing that, as Gitanjali sang, for such a time as this. I say this here all the time. I truly believe that indeed all of us come into this world on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose, whether we're aware of it or not. And I think our job is to figure out what that is and do something with it. I've been in so many spiritual circles where wonderful ideas are taught and offered and practiced, and then they go nowhere when they leave the room. And that was one of the things that I got from Dr. Jean and her work, was it put feet on my spirituality. It gave it wheels. It gave it momentum. right? And my synthesis work is deeply informed by Jean's work. Her work is infused in that body of work. And it really is my legacy carrying on what she taught me. Funny story, so in 2013, which is when I first met Dr. Jean Houston, I had received the Regeneration Scholarship from Centers for Spiritual Living, which was a scholarship fund for people under 40 to go to ministerial school and have your whole way paid. Because Centers for Spiritual Living wanted to invest in the younger generations. Most of the ministers were older, and we're like, we need to invest in the future. And if you're under 40, if you know someone who's under 40 who wants to be a minister, that thing still exists. The entire way through school is paid for people who want to be ministers who are younger. Also in 2013, the Jean Houston Foundation was going through a similar idea. Jean was in her 80s at that time, or approaching her 80s. Many of her students were in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they thought, these teachings have got to go somewhere. And so in 2013, the Jean Houston Foundation set up their Emerging Leaders Initiative, and they sourced young people from organizations all over the country, and they found a dozen of us to be trained by Jean to just download all of her work, rewrite the curriculums, be trained as trainers, and were charged with carrying this work forward. And of those 12, I am one of 2 or 3 who are really actively carrying on that legacy still. And the first time I met Jean in person, well, not in person, on Zoom, I was in Colquitt, Georgia, at this conference, and they had a laptop in the middle of the room, which Jean was on, and on the other end, she was on an iPad, and her iPad kept, tilting up, so all you could see was, this part of her face on the screen. And there was a whole room of us, and she was talking about this idea of the possible human, and this is one of her core concepts, is that the possible human is the individual who is awakened to their full potential. It is the human being who knows that they are the universe and who actively uses that to participate in evolution and the betterment of society. And she says that our job is to activate the possible human who will build the possible society. And so there's a room full of people, there's a dozen of us and all the coaches and mentors and trainers, and then from the screen, Jean points out and she says, "You!" And she calls me out of this group, and "You, Scarecrow." And it's come up to the screen, it's just giant head. It was like that. And she goes, "See, this is what I'm talking about." She goes, "This kind of a person who's beyond gender and who has activated all these things and da-da-da-da-da," and she just calls me forward, and it was just one of those mythic moments that set off a great story. All of this to say, the other thing that I was thinking about this morning is that Jean was someone of incredible privilege. She was raised by wealthy people. She was educated in the best schools in New York. She met all of the great minds of her time when she was a child. At the school she went to, she met Helen Keller and Albert Einstein, and the list goes on. Teilhard de Chardin was one of her mentors. Just the list goes on of the people that she was exposed to. And then what she did with all of that, right? She was wealthy, she was well educated, she was well connected, and then she used all of that connection, all of that influence, and all of that education, and all of that privilege to then go to every corner of the world and make sure that there was no one that was within her reach that was not available to her teachings. And she would go to some of the most impoverished communities in the world and bring them these evolutionary ideas about how they could reinvent their communities and awaken to their possibility. And it's also, I think, another charge for us, right? For the people who we live in Santa Cruz, folks. We're a people of privilege. If you're in this room, you are a person of privilege in some level, right? And to recognize that is also part of our responsibility, is to take whatever privilege we have, to take whatever comfort we have, to take whatever information or insight or great power we've been given, and then use it for good in whatever way we can. You know, Jean was a powerful, famous, connected person who was of influence to tens and tens of thousands of people. And one of the things she would always say is, "I just hope I live long enough to be of some use." There was a grandiose power to who this woman was and a deep humility at the same time. And that everything that she received, she shared freely, wholly, and completely. And I think it's a great example for all of us of how we can be, and an invitation to look at where we can contribute our unique gifts and our unique perspective to life. You may not consider yourself an artist or a teacher, but you have art and you have things to teach. And so I'm just grateful to you for this community, for who we are, for what we continue to build and cultivate together. And I'm grateful that I've had almost 14 years with Jean as a deep mentor, teacher, and friend. And I'm grateful that the relationship between a teacher and a student has nothing to do with whether either one of us are in a body. I'm grateful for that. And I think I'm going to wrap up. And I'm going to wrap up as Jean would wrap up. There was a poem that I heard her recite probably 1,000 times whenever she would give a lecture or be at a conference or be invited to be a guest speaker somewhere. She would always close with this poem by Christopher Fry called A Sleep of Prisoners. And I'll offer you this as my closing prayer, and we'll pray later. The human heart can go to the lengths of God. Dark and cold we may be, but this is no winter now. The thunder is the thunder of the flow, the thaw, the flood, the upstart spring. Thank God our time is now, when wrong has come up to meet us everywhere, never to leave us till we take the longest stride of soul folk ever took. For affairs are now soul-sized, and the enterprise is exploration into God. Where are you making for? It takes so many 1,000 years to wake, but will we wake for pity's sake?